Hello everyone and welcome to yet another live coding and chill. I'm your host Johnny, delighted to be here. Hope you're having lovely Fridays, you've got lovely weeks, you're gonna have amazing weekends. Let's keep working today on this app we like to call Goblin. What we've been doing in the past few episodes was working with the authentication flow, because that's what you asked in the chat, in the Discord, in the community. You want to see auth flow with this. The basic idea of this app is it's an app to help dungeon masters and other nerds like me provide interesting loot for their games and scenarios. Even for video game design, you can use it. We did do search and pagination because that was asked as well, but now we've been adding ways to log in, so our users will be able to favorite some loot so they have it more readily available, and even submit their own suggestions in the future, so it becomes more of a community itself. Also, this is generic enough, but still practical, real life. I would enjoy maintaining this project. I like to build things that I find are interesting and maybe are kind of missing in from the world. So I won't be doing too many like to-do lists and Kanban apps and that sort of thing. There is way too many of those. So this one, 2 streams ago, we did login with GitHub, and then we needed to adapt a few things to also account for login with Google. And now, in theory, it should be easy enough to add any other social login auth provider that we like Discord, Instagram, whatever. Should be easy enough to add the one that you'd like. And this is live in production as always. Click the links in the description, and I'm gonna click this one for the first time today. So let's see if it's gonna work. The answer is yes, because we're awesome. Great. This was high stakes here. Like if this didn't work, it would have been a massive credibility hit right from the start. Well, the great news are that we're awesome, so that would have never have happened. 100% confidence. What we'll be adding today, though, is my favorite login option, which is login with magic link, login with email. Email plus password was the most classic way to log in back in the day, and eventually we realized, well, if we do email and password, because humans are terrible with passwords, they're gonna forget. So we'll need to add flow so they can reset the password once they forget, and sometimes they won't update their passwords because they realize they've been hacked or whatever. So we'll also need to account for that. And eventually we realized, instead of doing all of those things, what if we just send them an email every time they want to log in? So don't wait for them to forget the password, to click to reset, and then have them log in by that, re-add the password, whatever. Just skip the password step. Humans are terrible at passwords as well. One of the easiest ways to get hacked is ask a person for the password, or if they reuse those passwords, which you shouldn't be doing anyway, but some people do. Another website gets leaked, another database gets in the not public, and then they keep trying your email address in every other app in the world and the password that they found from that other database, and sometimes they get in. Anyway, security reasons aside and practicality reasons aside, what other benefits are there with login with magic link and email? Even though the social providers do have the security benefits, logging in with GitHub and Google, some people don't have GitHub or Google accounts. Some people will not have the accounts that you'll be providing as social login, and maybe even if they do, they don't want to give you that connection. Maybe they mistrust you or how you're going to use it. Maybe they're misinformed. Doesn't really matter. Some people just ain't going to do it. Some people will prefer to have a separate account for a separate app, maybe a separate email address, so they know that you gave their emails to someone and now they've been spammed. This will never happen if you actually click on the links and log in here. You'll never get spam, I promise. What you can do is go to Johnnify Premium and get all of this code and more if you subscribe for Johnnify Premium. I'll only be doing the hard sell on Tuesdays because my friends keep telling me you need to expose, you need to talk about the value here more and more, but I can't do it every stream. We do these streams Tuesdays and Fridays. On Tuesdays, I'll be pushing this more. For now, I'll just say this code base and more. I would love it if you code along with me and adapt for your use case, but if you just want the code, get it with Johnnify Premium. All right, so the other big benefit with email login is that it will make it more possible for us to test end-to-end the authentication flow. When you work with auth providers, when you work with social login, then you need to go to their website and again send back to your own logic. And that's very hard to test for. You soon probably be testing it. You should probably be testing with a separate GitHub account and all of that. We've kind of discussed this in the previous episodes of why we weren't explicitly testing what happens when the user clicks this button. But with email logins, we can actually test this very, very meaningfully, and therefore have confidence that the users can make the most important step in their app, create an account. That's what you want your users to do. Even more than converting and buying products, I think creating the account is like the MVP of any app. This may have been already enough preamble from me. So let's dive in straight to creating more UI. So this is live in public. So I will close this link and close this one as well. And my dream of this is that I'll have like a little separator that says, or login with email, something like that. And as a reminder, we do have a type of a smoke test here for auth, in that we test that at least we can see the login page and it has the providers we expect. Maybe a little comment to make this more obvious. And what we want is to log in with magic. Can call it magic, I guess. And if we run this test, then that's not going to happen just yet. We need to implement. We are in the red, so we are allowed to implement more UI. So we're here. All we need is a continue with email, maybe with magic. Let me know which one you like to see as a login method yourself. And let me know in the chat what you're working for. If this magic link login is an exciting subject for you, if you're looking forward to the rest of this stream. We've done magic link login with Firebase and with Supabase quite a few times in the past. But interestingly enough, today we'll be doing it with Lucia, and therefore we'll be getting deeper into the weeds of what exactly is a magic link. What does that do? Because both Firebase and Supabase, they generate the magic links for you. So maybe you don't really know what do they do, what are they, how does this whole system even work? We'll find out today. And the one thing with Svelte is that the formatting with prettier is slightly different. Like technically I understand why they do this, because sometimes there is like white space in the output HTML, sometimes it's not. As a user, you'll never see the extra white space, but in the DOM, you will see it if you were to inspect it. So that's why they make the formatting is a bit wonky with Svelte. Anyway, doesn't really matter. What we want to add here is yet another button and say continue with email, and then already our test should be passing. However, this is not really what we want to do. As a reminder, when you click either of these buttons have a provider value, GitHub or Google, and then it goes into our default server action for this page, which sends you to the provider you've chosen. So if you've chosen GitHub, then you go to GitHub. If you've chosen Google, then you go to Google. This one is underlined now. It's not any. What are you talking about? Anyway, let's not get two tips here. It's just I needed to open this file for TypeScript to understand. Oh, I've actually typed this. It happens sometimes. And we could make a third case here for the magic option, the email option, or whatever you want to call it. But because this is going to be quite different than the other two options, where we get a redirect URL and we redirect the user to that URL, and then we hit them back with a callback, I think it makes sense to have a separate form to handle this, which does mean that because you cannot have a default page action in SvelteKit now and a named SvelteKit action, we'll need to give names to both of them. So this one, the default one, let's call it provider. And we'll have one more that's going to be magic or email. Could also be like social or email. Let me know like if either makes more sense. I'll be happy to do it. So for this one, I'm thinking like magic or email or whatever. Let's call it social because we have the provider name here. Call it magic. That's because you may also have like email and password credentials login in your app. I think this is explicit enough. All right, so for this form to now hit the newly renamed social action, we do need to give it an action attribute, which will be in this page hit the social one. So these should match up, social, and I will not look it up just yet and just see if it works. It does. Great. So now when they click this, we want something different to happen. So I'll actually have one more form here. The magic form. And since there is no provider for this one, I'll just call it like this. No need to give a value to the button, no need for anything. And for this either. And I'll add one of these little separators from Daisy UI here. It says divider and or. What else should we say? Kinda makes sense. Maybe not. And we need to update this icon. Let's go back to our favorite Johnnify. And look for email. Mail. Envelope. This makes me think this favorite service is down. Does this work? Yeah. Wait a minute. There is no mail? Interesting. You can see the query here updates when I press enter, but it only actually works when you hit the button. Example of doing some client-side craziness instead of working with vanilla HTML stuff. Maybe. All right, let's copy this one. I like it. Let's go to SVT OMG, paste the markup. And go to our icon selector, which is getting quite big. We may be at the point. We're definitely at the point where you can at least consider bringing in an icon library or a Johnnify itself instead of manually creating all of these. Still quite fast to do. All right, sweet. I classify this as sweet. I'll make these changed colors like when you hover or something, but that's for later. There are many things that I could be doing when I look like this and sip coffee. In this case, it's like CSS things that nobody wants to see me adapt or copy updates. Doesn't make sense, you know. Right, doesn't really matter. Now, I guess UI is done. Question is, what do we do when they actually click this? Now we do nothing, we submit the form, but nothing happens. We submit the form, and what does happen is we get into this magic action we just created, but it does nothing. And it should be doing a few things. It should be validating that we actually have an email, which we don't. I guess we need an input field for this form. So that's fair enough. So yeah, we need an input field. I think we have a few inputs in the app. Like in the main page, we have an email input even here. This. So let's steal this. Maybe we can refactor it to a component, but that's a problem for later. Maybe something for me to do offline. All right. So this one, does it need a label? Is my question. I'll say no. But I will make it like screen reader only. Looks decent enough. So if we, one of the benefits of having two forms for this is that I can still click either GitHub or Google, my social provider, and it will log me in just fine, perfectly. But if I click continue with email, I will get the browser validation to say, you haven't filled in this field, you need to fill this in. And browsers are clever. We've specified this as an input type email. So it will do some like randomized validation of whether whatever the user has put in here looks like an email address. All right. So we've got these two guys. As always, we will be doing some server-side validation with Zod as well. So let's copy all of this. Get the form data. The only thing we will have is an email here, and instead of providers enum, we'll actually have a magic login schema. They're on me. I don't know if you can hear the police sirens here. I should be safe. They're like, there is someone not doing validation on the server, but it's alright, we're gonna do it now. Let me cook. Right, so Zod, where are we bringing this in again? We must have a similar thing here. This one. We could optionally be asking for the user's name as well, as we do with the mailing list, but it's a bit confusing because if they click those, we just get them from a provider. Would they know that? They may think, oh, I need to provide my display name. We don't really care about the display name. So I think we just let it be. Therefore, I think all we need here is to bring in the Zod library. And let's say that the magic login schema is just an email. And we may change it in the future. And here, the magic login schema, we're gonna save parse and just pass it in the email. And then another chance, if like regular users will never fail the backend navigation because they are not allowed to submit this form. But if someone is being naughty, they may be able to send something here, and then our server will catch it. This part will catch it. Hello, Austin in the chat. Love your streams, you say? Amazing. I appreciate you. Is there a way to return data from the form action back to the form on the page? Yes. And surely we must be doing it in a few places in all the streams we've done, but we will actually need it today. So whatever you return in SvelteKit form actions, it's Nico backwards. I'd never have guessed. So hello, Nico, in the chat. I always fail like these anagrams types of puzzles. So thank you for the hint. Thank you for the solution to this puzzle. With SvelteKit, you can actually return anything here. You can return the email back, you can return a message, whatever, and we'll show how the UI will be able to use it in the front end, because in the end, we will be sending a message of, we've sent you an email there and this email address. So we'll be showing exactly that, exactly what you want. And it's very handy because you do want your server logic to be returning stuff in the front end sometimes. With the social providers, we didn't need to do it because we just redirect them to a different page. But for this one, we'll definitely want to tell them exactly their email address, which I guess we could be doing by directing them to a different page that says check your email, but that's not as cool. So we'll be doing the coolest thing possible. Right, so the pass validation, should we do this first since you asked? Yes. We actually do return the email and the name here in the UI. In the other page. So let's demo that and then move on as planned. So we can sign people up in the mailing list here. You can click around and see that yourself. The moment we click this, we get this little toast. So this one gets the name back if you filled it in. But if you filled it in without a name, it will go to the email. So the UI gets back both of those things. If it has the name, it's going to use the name. If not, it's going to use the email. So that's an example of the server sending stuff back to the client. And we will be doing that for this login flow too. But first, if we've passed it through here, we actually want to send our users emails. So that's what we'll be doing first. So let's see, what are the steps here? So again, we're using Lucia for authentication here, which actually does use quite a few, well, not quite a few, uses a couple other libraries as well. And you're in control, you can use a different one if you'd like. But what they're suggesting is use this library called Oslo to generate some random strings and create the magic link login using them. So let's continue with the plan and generate a verification code by getting all this and adding Oslo as a dependency. Let me double check whether it's fine to add it as a production dependency, as a regular dependency. Should be fine. Maybe we'll already have it already, to be honest. All right, got them. And now let's create this handy method, which should only run on the server. And where should we put it is the question. With SvelteKit, if you put something in server lib, in source lib server, it will make sure that you only run it on the server. If not, it's going to crash. And the route can tell you shouldn't be doing this. So maybe let's just create one here. So a user ID, it says, and an email, it also says, and then it eventually returns a promise, so this should be async. It eventually returns a string, so it's asynchronous. And then it wants us to do some stuff with our database. So if we have any verifications code already for our user, it wants us to delete all of them, like expire them. I guess if they click the button again, expire the codes. And then it creates the actual code that we'll need to use, picking from just numbers, and then inserts that verification code into the email table and returns the code so we can actually do something with it. But the two things I'd like to do here, I don't quite understand why they just do 8 characters for this and only use numbers. This is handy if you're doing like a pin type setup, if you have a short expiry and you expect the user to manually like type in the code, like you can have 6 digits or 8, but since they'll be manually tapping on a link and not actually using the code in our case, I think it makes sense to have like more security and make this longer. Like you can make this absurdly long actually, and kind of save yourself from brute force attacks. We should be doing other things like throttling as well to kind of safeguard against someone brute forcing the passwords, but at the very least make them very long and therefore unguessable by brute force. If you need it to be like an SMS type of thing, then okay, it makes sense to just make it 8 digits. But for us, just to be safe, let's just make a long one. And we could just say to this. You could even do just emojis and you have them tap around. Right, so with this one, what Lucy expects us to do is, this is kind of like our form action. We won't be generating an ID like this. We will be creating a new user with an unverified email, and has password, I guess, is nothing for us. Like they won't have a password. But I guess this also works for password too. And then we set some cookies for them. They never see the code, I guess. We just pass the code to our email solution of choice for them to add it as a link and click it. So first, we need to take care of our users table yet again and introduce this email verified field, no passwords for us. And also this new email verification code table, or whatever we want to call it. So let's call this generate verification codes. Generate verification code. I think that makes a bit more sense. Nico in the chat. I still have some catching up to do on my videos. I do live stream quite twice a week now, and a lot of them are very long streams, so I do understand. I need to catch up on my videos as well, because often I add timestamps when people ask, but it's quite hard after live streaming to go back and listen to myself and timestamp, generate the timestamps. So I have catching up to do as well. So I'm calling this generate verification code because maybe it's going to be like text, right? You send this as an SMS. It doesn't really matter. But for this to work, this needs a database so it can insert the code in, and therefore we need a verification codes table, which Lucia says it's going to look like this. It will have the code itself, the user ID it belongs to, the email, and then when it expires, which we're making it expire in 15 minutes. Sensible can be 10, can be 10 days if you really want to, but that advice against that. So with Drizzle, which we're using as the ORM of choice to talk to our Tursa database, now I am having an SQLite running locally though. We have an auth file in the schema here, where we describe our users table and our sessions table, and now we're also going to add our verification codes table. So we are saying that for our users, we already had the email. We also want email verified, which can be a Boolean. But with Drizzle and SQLite, I think there's a special way to do this. So let's have a look. I think you use like an integer, but put it in Boolean mode or something. Because SQLite doesn't have Booleans by default. So yeah, indeed, the integer helper, bam, we'll call this email verified. That's the name of the column in the database. Doesn't really matter with Drizzle because you'll only know this like this. and the mode is going to be Boolean. Great. So that should take care of our users table. Let's double check. For our user, it's asked want to have an email verified. I guess no password for us. So that should be fine. But then we want verification codes table. We'll call it verification codes. We'll have an ID. It will have an email that shouldn't be null. It should have a user ID, like our provider's users table, for example. So when a user gets deleted, then this will be deleted too. I wonder why it should have an email here too. Maybe it's for easier decrypting of the code or something like that, I guess. But yeah, code. Yes, let's just redo that one. Because the code shouldn't be null either. And we also want a date for expires at, and we have a date for for sessions. Great. So that should be fine. So let's double check ID, the code, the user ID, the email, and expires at 5 fields. We do have 5 fields, so we are good to go. Anything else here? Doesn't really matter. The question is, should this one get the database as well? I think the answer is probably. Do some dependency injection here. But will it be the user's repo? Let's see what we have. So the user's repo, yet again, it doesn't do anything with sessions specifically, but maybe it should. So I think it should be getting the user's repo. Maybe not sure. I definitely don't want it to be talking to the database directly. Well, I probably don't want it to be talking to the database directly, to be honest. Maybe this whole method is something in the user's repo interface, actually. Maybe that's the best place to put it. Yeah, I like that. There you go. Copilot kinda agrees. Hope you can kinda see this. That's what it suggested. So now our DB implementation for user repo should have a method that looks like this, actually. Should have left it as a function. Now we do have access to this DB, great. And this is not how Drizzle operates. We say from verification codes. Or do we say it later? Maybe not. Let's double check. Delete. Oh, just delete. Yeah, so kind of correct. So instead of from, delete this table, but only where user ID equals this. Verification code user ID equals the given user ID. And that's it. That's going to create all of them. Going to create many. And we don't want to return anything. Great. And then we do want to generate a random string using the Oslo library, alphanumeric using this library as well. And then we want to insert on a table. Doing an insert right here. So we insert to verification codes values, but it's going to be just one. It's the one value. And we can safely call this user ID, but we don't need it, I suppose. Ah, that's why we need it. I see. Because we delete all the verification codes for a user. So how do we know if they've clicked the button again? I'm not sure. I guess we must be putting it in a cookie at some point. So actually, and this only returns the code, not the user ID, interestingly enough. So yeah, always give us a user, this always expects a user ID. That's fair enough. We'll worry about this another juncture. So ID, you don't need to pass it. User ID, you do need it. Email code expires it. Does this need to be a date? Is that why it's kind of complaining? Using this is the problem. It's one of the problems. Don't use this. ID we don't need. Let's do the unfair things too. So I suspect, yeah, this date thingy doesn't quite like it. This is a top sect. I guess I could do like a time and then it's happy. Sure. But there is another way to do dates, which maybe we want to do now. Date. So this one. In our auth thingy, we give this option to be mode timestamp, then I think it will be happy to get a date. Great, done, solved, nailed it. And then finally we have a code back. Well, we have inserted the code and it comes. I guess you could have your database do this if you want to be cuter. Should we be cute? Maybe. Yeah, let's be cute. So much like we have like a default function for the ID or the verification code. So I guess it doesn't really need. We could have a default function for the code. And in here, we can be returning whatever we did. So the implementation detail is up to the database. Is that sensible? Probably not. Maybe it is, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. We'll see how it goes. We can play around. This is the method. This is the thing that should have access to the crypto libraries. Maybe that's a way to justify what we're doing. So instead of creating the code here, blam, the database will create it for us and we'll do the returning trick. This one. And return the verification code. And then this is going to return just one row, which we can do structure and get the code out and return the code. Now the database is doing it for us. And if we change the algorithm for creating the code, we change the database kind of trigger we have here. I think that makes more sense. This one, kinda. So we can change the implementation of this. Maybe we can export it and test it if we want, unit test it. Maybe that's a bit better. And we definitely don't want this. All right, so we have a way to generate the verification code. Sounds sensible. We will need to run some database migrations. Guess we're kind of doing them here. But let's see what other server logic we have. So they want us to create the user first. And then create a verification code, and then send it by email, and then also set some cookies and redirect them, which I don't quite understand. Redirect them to a home page. You don't need to. We won't be doing that. We will be setting cookies though. And every time they click the button, they generate a new ID, which is interesting, to put it mildly. We will need to adapt a few things. Let's see. So our users table, email verified. Let's say that it defaults to something else. Defaults false. Which will not be a default function. I think it's just a different sort of default. Just dot default. So email verified, it's not null, and default is false. But that means that when we do create the user, we should ensure that they have an email verified of at least false. And this one, should it be like a select user? Maybe. Is it this guy? That makes sense. Well, this one is an insert user, I guess. This may cause a few problems. And here for create user, you can omit the ID, great, but you shouldn't omit the not verified. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. So here, in the case of when GitHub or Google gets the user back to our app, we create the user if they don't exist already. Here, and it's here where we will want to say that the email is verified. And that should be the only change that we need in this case. Or should it be this? Not sure. Let's pass this along, just for funsies. This should always have a verified email with either Google or GitHub. But just in case, let's pass along what we've derived here. Why not? Cool. So we've amended this. Now, as a reminder, when they click, they want us to create a new user every time, which is upsetting. Maybe we need to find the user by email. Yeah, that's probably what we need. Like, check, do we have that user first? That's actually what we need to do. Check if we have a user with that email and send them a magic link anyway. No password, none of that craziness. All right, so let's map out the steps. We'll have the email there. Question is, let's do what we'll be doing today. Do we already have a user with that email? If not, create them. If yes, then do nothing. Move on to the next step, which is create a verification code for that user. So that makes sense. We will need access to the locals because we'll get the user repo from there. I don't know why I didn't try to distransfer there. Find by email, not email. And then if we don't have an existing user, we do something, or else existing user. This actually just returns the ID. This is kind of neat. If we don't have the existing user, I guess we need to create that user. Now, create user sometimes doesn't have a provider because their provider is just magic link emails. And I guess that makes sense. What does our provider table look like? So double check. So yeah, the user ID could be, I guess, their email. We could have the provider ID be magic. Maybe that kind of makes sense, but not really. I would not like to mix the verification methods. I'm sure some people will have that, but I don't want to mix things like that. Which means create user now sometimes doesn't create a provider. Doesn't take a provider. It's optional. Is it going to be happy now? It wants us to explicitly say undefined. What if I do this? Okay, now it's happening. So if we get given a provider, we also insert them into the providers to users table. Fair enough. All well and good. We do get the user ID in the end. Either way, great. But now that we do have a user ID, we want to create the code, I suppose, which GitHub claims it's going to work like this. GitHub Copilot. Yeah, generate email verification code. Our database will take care of that. Taking in the user ID and their email. I need to double check the flow and say again to see, like, do we really need the email in that database? Who knows? And now send the code to this email. That should make sense. That should work. And it should work even if we have a user already, which we do in this case. So let's see if I click this. Something went wrong. Great. So what went wrong? Ah, of course. We haven't created any migrations just yet. So we're going to be setting some cookies afterwards. Send the email, set some cookies. I guess we can set the cookies anyway. Do we do these things on the callback? The answer is yes. And I guess what we really want is to set this cookie. And we do that in SvelteKit using this, the cookies one. The cookies helper. What's the name of this? Is it session? What is the name of this? Lucia session cookie name. There we go. So Lucia, this one, I suppose, session cookie serialize. Serialize. Americanized. Freedomified. But I guess we need like some more parameters here. This. Oh, we can just do it like this. That's correct. I think SvelteKit is a bit different. So instead of serialize, we use the session quickie explicitly, its name, its value, the path, and spread the rest of the attributes. Okay, so now it will be happy, but we also want to return the name, not the name, the email, and success through, maybe, who knows. We do have like quite a lot of form state here, unfortunately, or not. Would we do the same thing again? Maybe. I think so. But first things first, let's create the migration that we need. Let's double check. Why do we need that email? So at some point, their email should get them into, I guess, an email verification one. Sure. Yeah, this is left to our imagination of what this exactly does, but we'll be implementing it. But then, they say it's a post here, but I don't think we're gonna be posting. I think it's just gonna be a get, I think. And do we actually need the email? No. It's checking whether that the email in there is the same as the user email. I don't know when that would be not true, but I guess it kind of makes sense. All right, so they'll be clicking a link. They say they're submitting a form here, but that's not correct. We'll be getting this from URL params, I suppose. But yeah, I think that's it. I think I'm convinced on why they want an email in the code table as well. So we'll keep it, which means that what we need is to generate a migration. Let's double check how we can do that. DB generate migrations. Created one. Tearful the Centurions. Sounds like a Patrick Rothfuss novel. Anyway, double check whether this kind of looks correct. ID not null, code not null, user ID not null, email not null, expires at not null, the foreign key relationship of the user ID with our user stable looks correct. And we're also adding the email verified column there. And for all existing users, that defaults to false, which maybe it's not correct. I'm not sure. Maybe it should be true. Anyway, we don't have enough users to worry about that. I can manually do it. Yeah, I guess in reality, every existing user now will be a social provider user. So I guess their emails will be verified. It doesn't really matter. Let's run the migration. Will this Right, I wrote the script, so it's definitely gonna work. It did. And hit the correct database. So now when I send request an email, nothing visible happens, but we see that it does create a code and does try to email this guy. And this guy is me, so that's great. Everything according to plan. And now I guess we want a bit of UI to make this a bit more pleasant. And then we'll actually send the email and log the user in. Even more UI. So do we want a toast? What does chat think? Pop up a toast or pop up something else here? Probably toast, like in the main page. So here, like very uncharacteristically, misspelled something. It's crazy for me. And this little toast. I guess we can copy it over wholesale. I'd say that's fine. We also have this. So without like a magic state, I guess there is a solid state. It's kind of annoying. But maybe not annoying. Maybe that's exactly what we want. In this profile page, when we save name change, then we get this alert which disappears after a while without tracking the form state in a different way. Do we want to do that? Maybe. Interesting. Where are we trying to? The root page. There's something wrong with the cookies, I'm sure. Ah, no. In this main page, just change the name of this anyway. Right, so fair enough. I'm here, I can sign out. Great. I'm signed out. I sent the email. Good. And then I don't have my cookies. I do. I can actually go to my profile. So this logs me in without clicking the link. So that's bad. Which kind of makes sense. Kind of makes sense. Because now in our main hook, we can get a session ID and it validates the session, and I guess it finds the user for us. So that's kind of weird. Is it like, are they actually logged in or not? Okay, I haven't verified my email. I just pressed like a button. So let's kill any cookie that exists. Great. Let's log in again. By logging in, I mean try to email login here. And then if I refresh, actually, I do get logged in. And it is because we've set a cookie there, but we're not taking email verified or something. Who knows? We'll figure it out eventually, I'm sure. Because eventually I am gonna verify my email. So how do we know? Like, we want this session cookie. Let's kill it. Now we are logged out. If I log in with GitHub, GitHub puts in like a million things here. And then we also have a session cookie. But this one is more legit, right? So how do we differentiate from those? If we want to create a session cookie for this, maybe we do not, but no, we definitely do. Because we want to validate this against this user, they need to log in with the same device. Maybe not. Do we need them logged in with the same device? Unclear. Ah, it says here, make certain validate all user sessions. And then it creates a new one. And then it creates a new session for this user. If we don't set any cookies, I think we'll just be fine, right? I think so. Because then they can click from their phone as well and log in. They don't need to stay in the same device. I guess that's my big question. Do we want to create this user session? I'd say the answer is no. And then they click the link, which is unguessable because it's so long, and then they get logged in. I guess the security is that it is an unguessable link and there is a short time frame. But someone may click it somehow, I guess. And this one is when you actually need to press a few buttons. So should we just be setting their user ID? Maybe. Right, so one thing at a time. What I'm thinking here, I don't want to create a user session when this happens. I just want to send the code. Because I don't want to bother checking whether the user has a verification code, has something that needs to be verified. I don't want to check that every time. Or maybe that's what I could be doing. I could be adding the session like this and checking, does the user have a verification code that needs to be verified? Yeah, that kind of makes sense. What problem would that cause? If they send the verification code and then they try to log in with Google, then I guess then I'll need to delete it. Okay, so I think I'll do that. Yeah, I can redo this, I suppose. And let's console log the session in the user too. Fresh false. I'm not sure how I could work with this, so I'm thinking that here in the hook, if the user has expiring verification codes, that makes sense. Maybe not. Nah, I don't like this. Too complicated. I won't be setting the cookie here. That's what I do like. And sign out. And what I would like to do is copy this sign up logic. This alert effect logic. Maybe I can extract this with a login with email component. Templating will only be the form and the alert. And this. plural thing. So from this page, I meant these guys. In the page store. Great. In the flight transition. And in our login page, instead of doing this, let's click login form. Great, works. Good, we're sending something and setting no cookies, so now we don't get redirected. Should be fine. And we get an email back. Too long. Kinda understandable. So now we're claiming that they'll get an email there, which will have a link that will magically log them in when they click. I think that's fine. And if we do want to set a cookie for the user ID for extra security, we can. But we won't until we think we need that. So now let's pretend we're sending an email like with this code, and what that email will do is get them back to the website somewhere. And I guess we have like some callback logic here, and we can have an auth callback magic, I guess a dedicated one, because the logic is similar but not the same with providers. So we can have a dedicated one. For magic, or name it something different. Like email, whatever, link. The same magic. I guess what they're showing in the docs is for when you want the user to be able to log in even when they haven't verified their email. Like they're not using social authentication, and they don't need to verify that they have this email address, and they can still use your app. They're immediately logged in and they can use your app. I don't like that approach. You should verify your email if you want to use the apps that I create. But hey, it's a use case, like kinda anonymous signups or something. Right. So what should we be doing here? And this should have a parameter. Hello, Yus, how are you doing? Nice to see you in the chat. So here, we don't need the provider, but we want something from the search params. Oh, this. No auth state, no nothing. So they make it here, they have a code. How do we validate this? They get the user's session from here, which we do not, and we're not going to throw it if they don't have it. We just don't set it. We 400 if this is not a string. That's fair enough. And then they want us to have a method to verify the authorization code, which is this, I guess. Can be inside our user repo. Gets the user and gets the code. So I guess maybe we don't need the emails either. You're coding along. What are you coding? Are you coding along with implementing auth as well? That'd be super fun. The ideal use case. But you could be doing something different. So yeah, maybe we don't need the emails actually here. How we are doing things here. I think here we don't verify any code. No, we do check whether the code is expired or whether the code exists, so it kind of makes sense. But I think we can call it like get code for user, like get user by code, something like that. So let's see. Trying to fix a circular reference. Hate when that happens. So we're implementing login flow. We're adding another provider or another way to log into our Loot Goblin app. The past two streams we did login with GitHub and login with Google. So of two providers, now we're logging in with Magic Link. So you don't need to have any other account other than for our app. And once we do this, we'll be able to test this whole thing, the auth flow, the auth stuff, a bit better as well. So find by verification code. We do have almost a circular reference here because our users repo interface has the user type based on the select user, which is what our database implementation, which uses that interface, is using. So we're close. So here, what do we want? Maybe we want like a join. I guess this is just a transaction because once you get them, you're also changing their email verified to true if it's not already. So let's see. We do a transaction here. Plunk. We want to join as well. Are we doing a join anywhere else here? Let's see. No. So what Drizzle has to say about that. Join there, and then have a where clause. I using this. The funny thing is, I fix others' errors, but can't fix mine. That's how it always happens. You're more objective, more chill when you look at other code. It's like when you're in the forest, it's hard to see the tree that's giving you trouble. When you're like on a helicopter above the forest, you're like, oh yeah, of course, that one. Flip that one. Should always be a limit one here, just in case. So we get a user. If we do get a user for that code, then we also want to switch their email verified here. I think we can do a parcel update here. And then we return the user ID, which should be fine. All right, so validate authorization code. Let's just give it the code. And what we get back is an ID. So they're not true. It's users repo. Fine, but verification code, and this is the code. Great, and we have a user ID. And now if we don't have a user ID back, I guess 400. I think we don't need to try cats anymore. Like invalid code is the answer. Maybe that's all we need. In the end, we redirect to your profile, but first we want to set some cookies. I can only imagine. They want to invalidate user sessions, sure. I got too much. Is this code for practice only? No, this is a real thing. You can follow the link in the description, which should be like lootgoblin.versal.app, and click around there. And soon, like you can already find some fun loot that I've created if you want to run your own D&D session or similar. And once we have the accounts done, you can suggest your own loot, and we'll have like a favorite, like upvote functionality, like functionality, that sort of thing. So this could be a bustling community, because that's how I learn best when I try to do realistic projects that maybe people are going to use. I find that helps me learn quite a lot, motivates me to keep maintaining this project. And when other people are using it, they have like great ideas about what should be added next, like, and you want to accommodate for your user's idea. You don't want to be just in your head trying to think what could be better. Real users telling you what should be better is the best way to add valuable features. So I always try to do real things, realistic things. Right, so we are in this case, and we want to say invalidate. If we don't have a user ID, then invalid code. Then invalidate the user sessions. Yeah, they want to do this update, but that's fine. They were also deleting the code that was just sent. That's a nice cleanup that we should do. Let's do it immediately. So one more thing to do here. Delete all of them, I guess. That would make sense. Call this user ID. For clarity, nest even deeper. That's not always bad. What they want us to do, they want us to invalidate the user sessions, update this, we've done it already, and then okay, the session here. Oh, last time we saw this, they had dots, but we're doing slashes. Great. I think this is the same as what we're doing the other place here. It shouldn't have any changes. Guess it has this one, the button there. So we can just copy and paste the same cookie. Yeah, they create the session and set this thing. Cool, we'll do the same thing here. Right, and let's go to our database once again. And make this 32 characters, why not? Go crazy. Let's double check. Login with GitHub still works. Great. Logout. Login with magic link. We get an email. We're not sending the email yet, but we do have a console logged code here. And if we manage to get the user to auth callback magic code equals this, this should get logged in. Almost. No transaction is active. Interesting. Interesting. So what did we actually do here? This is a transaction, surely. Double check here. We have this code. want to go here. Some things are happening. This is taking a while. It finds the user and it's saying no transaction is active. That doesn't make sense. Oof. Well, this one should be in the transaction. All right. I think I just messed it up. Try again. Login. This guy. You have a code. Steal the code. We're not enhancing this format. We will. Maybe we're not. And auth. Callback. Magic code is this. All right, logged in. Bam, bam, fast. So what I was doing is like talking to the database directly, even though I was inside the transaction, which you shouldn't be doing. So that was the problem. And it looks like we're happily logged in. And even though we've used the Google provider, or now we have yet another one, the email one. Great. So yeah, you should use a transaction here. So the verifications codes ones, seems like we don't actually need to add the email because we never check it, right? As it happens. So we don't actually need this. Is it a security measure? Maybe. Yeah, so I can just not create this. That's fine. Bloop. And let's double check what we're doing here. I'm not using MongoDB, which I assume is MDB. I'm using Turso, which is an SQLite database. Now I'm talking to a local SQLite database. In the cloud, I'm using Turso. Super popular and up and coming and very fast to run locally. And I'm using Drizzle ORM to talk to it. And I love it. It's been many, many years since I last used Mongo, maybe at least 8 years, I'd say. And I always prefer SQL databases over NoSQL databases. So it looks like we won't be messing with cookies, indeed. What will we be messing with? Unclear. Let's log us out and see the database again. Oof, that's interesting. I killed the server, of course. Not that interesting. That's why we couldn't log in. So let's sign out. Great. So what did I want to do? Let's kill the server just in case. Delete this. And this. Restart database. migrate the database, see the database, and now restart the server. And now we should have no user accounts. Let's try logging in with email. We sent an email to us in theory. In practice, we haven't. We have to manually create a link for ourselves. But if we go to auth callback magic and this new code, we're logged in. We don't have a username, and that's fine. We don't have an avatar. We have nothing. Why doesn't this update? Kind of interesting. Let's have a look at that. Oh, this fails. We don't need an avatar URL. Nullable? Nullus? All right. So in the magic link case, we don't have an avatar yet. We'll be making that in the future. We can still sign out. If I sign in with GitHub, which is a different email address, then I get an avatar just fine and a display name that I can change. All good. And let's double check if I try to log in again with the same email. Then I get another auth code. And I get logged in. Nice and fast. Sweet. So we're not enhancing this form somehow. Which we should. And this one, why not? All right, works nice, works fast. All that remains is to actually send to the user a link that includes this code somehow. So instead of them getting the code from our console logs and then manually putting in the URL, that's never going to happen. We need to send them an email. We need to send them an email. Click here to log in. And because we have like the 15-second timeout, this should be unguessable. Is there something more we need to be doing? I think so. Because are we checking how long ago the expire date was? I think we're not. And I think we should. Is within expiration date. So I guess that one is like, oh. How does this know? Is it because it doesn't even see the code? So how does it know that it's like 15 minutes? Oslo is within expiration date. Unclear. we should be checking whether this one is actually within that date. They do it slightly different here, but that's fine. We could be doing aware, but I guess we can also not do that. So if we get a user ID, then we want to delete the verification code anyway. But if it's not within the expiration date, this should never be null. How can this be null? It's not null. So if this is already expired, then we don't honor this. We'll need to try again. And that's about it. So let's see if that works. One final step. Let's request yet again. And now I need to run Visual Studio or whatever that is. Let's look harder. No such table verification codes, it says. Oh, it's not looking at my database, Visual Studio. Okay, too confusing. I don't think I'll be waiting like 15 minutes to check this. I just want to like sell in the local database, but I'm not going to do it. The problem with Visual Studio is that it doesn't respect my environment variables. It doesn't look at them. So it tries to connect the production database, which doesn't have tables like that. So yeah, that's not great. Also sell into local DB. Do I have an example here? Not really. Okay, that's by the by. Let's get into the big thing. We've actually done the validate link, validate code. So now, as we said, all we need is to send an email that has this code embedded in as a link, the code which is generated as a link. I will check up on my doggy just a moment. So here we have like this to do. This is what we'll be doing in just a few moments. back, and I brought my cute doggy with me. All good. So we need to send this email to the user. We need to send this code to the user. We need to email this code. We need them to have them in their inbox. They click the link and they're magically logged in. Last part. We have used resend for the mailing list in the past. You can use many things. I've tried to set up Amazon AWS SES, Simple Email Service, which should be the cheapest one, but it needs a few hoops to get through. Also, depending on the environment where you deploy, you may have access to NoteMailer, so just send something from there. But using something like Resend does give you more analytics and stuff like that, if you care about that sort of thing. So we've already set up Resend to do the mailing list signups and the audience stuff. So, sorry it was abrupt, but we haven't finished yet. I'm back. I just needed to check back on the on my dog. Sorry. Right. So what we need is to send an email with Resend and this code here. And are we using the Resend client? Anyway, no, we're just using the Resend API directly. And we have this mailing list interface. So maybe it could be like email interface or something like that. Huh. No headers, no attachments, just a text. So this one is gonna have text. Here's a link, and we're good to go. But we don't want to use the Resend API, so I'll just be looking at the curl, I guess. But how would we have access to the Resend client? I guess we can create yet another interface. Maybe in the database users, maybe not. Let's make it a repo. Or not, I'm just double checking. Do we want yet another? Yeah, maybe in the users database. Too many responsibilities for this one. Yeah, Nico, I'm back. Sorry, again, I needed to check on my doggy because she was suspiciously, not quite, suspiciously active. What I'm trying to do now is double check. Like, where do I want to put the send an email to this person functionality? Maybe I'll just put it in this users repo. When I leave the doggy alone, sometimes I go back and like some covers are written, even though she's a very good girl, she's the best girl. Sometimes she doesn't know, like if she thinks she's alone, she gets stressed. So I need to go give her some belly rubs and she's fine again for a long time. So yeah, we'll. I'm going back and forth. We already have the mailing list repo, I guess, which deals with emails and does the recent stuff too. It's like email service. Maybe it doesn't need to be a repo at all. Maybe it just needs to be like a send email type of thing. Yeah, maybe I will just do that. Then I'll worry about it offline. It's just a server method, just a send send verification code. Doggy was with me, but she escaped now, and I can close the door and be more quiet. So export const send verification code. Needs the email and the code. And then it does some stuff. The recent mailing list example. And we have this. And that's the way we fetched before. So let's do it again. But the URL we need to hit is emails, emails URL. So just this one, not dynamic, nothing great. And we have some parameters. We can say some stringify. So we have a from, which can be for you, this will be the name of your domain, but for me, I just have recent set up with the Johnnify project. So I'm using another email address in that other domain. And I do just the one email address, but I guess can be many. To this email. And what else do they want? Subject. And then we can have text and HTML and even React, but we're not using React here. Kinda correct. So we need the URL, I guess, because we'll need to send us to localhost now that we're in local development, but we'll need to send people into the real world, to the real production URL when we are in production. So this one should actually be taken a root URL as well. All strings. looks correct, and we can have an HTML version of this, which we can design like somewhere else and have it look quite nice. But for us, let's just keep it simple. Let's do some divs. We can design this nicely. We can even use React.html for this, even though we are in a SvelteKit project. But it's a few steps, and React.html isn't always great. But hey. This one, I already have it in my .env. Magic link we've established is this. So we can use it in both places. In reality, you'd be making this like a big button, nice and pleasant to click. All right, what else do we need to send these guys, if anything? No attachments, no headers, tags, maybe? Do we pay extra for this? We could have helper methods to generate these emails as well. Text. And I imagine this as a method that takes the magic link. String. Yes, it's these two guys. So now I think we're talking to the recent API correctly. Are we doing something else in the mailing list here? No. Let's check if there's an error. Console logging an error in again. But I think that's it. So now all we need is to use this send verification code thing in our server method. What do we have our to do? But the URL, we have it here. SvelteKit gives this to us. So that should be all well and good. I think recent has a deliver.recent.com or something. Yeah, we can check. And let's sign in to send in. So let's try it. If I put in my, not my email address, this test email address here. Took a bit longer, so I do think that it must have hit recent here. And indeed, we did send one. This one looks great. But plain text also works. I guess needs new lines. I thought we'd get new lines the way I made it here. Guess not. Maybe that's better. Anyway, question is, if I do click this or this, do I log in? Contact the site owner to fix the issue. So I want to open this in a new tab, maybe that will help. Oh, internal error, great. Interesting. So did we not create a recent user here? Maybe that's the case. We're trying to destructure this, but sometimes that would not be true, I suppose. And we can check. Now user return null, or else do these things. Does this still hard crash? The answer is no, we just don't have the code anymore. Right, so that's kind of promising. Let's try it again. Another one with a new code. Let's open it. Great, logged in, works. So for some reason, trying to open it inside that iframe or whatever they have there made it not work, but it looks like in real life it will work. Great, amazing. Did I click to sign out? Maybe not. So let's double check with my actual email address, and I'll go off screen. See the URL, see what happens. Right, we got something. Logged in. Great. So I did get an email. It did look like the one we saw in recent, and it did result in me being logged in as this person. So it all looks great to me. We don't have an avatar anymore. And if we now log in with Google, we're not going to get the Google avatar or something. But still, if you log in with a provider like this, you do get the avatar you've set for that provider just fine. So I consider this done. Try it again. Check your email to log in. Cool, works. And it's gonna work in production as well, I'm sure. What else do we need to do? Send the email with recent. We did validate the code actually. Auto refreshing whether the user has logged in. So that's the kind of common use case. So every time I do this, I'm not quite paying something too recent, but I am exhausting my quota, which is kind of interesting. But should I do it again? Yeah. So let's sign out here. Let's log in. Here. You get the email, then you go to another window where you have your emails, and then you click the link, and then you're logged in. The other window, which you can see, this one. But on this one, you still are on the login screen. Now, if you refresh, then you are logged in again. But can we do something so you are automatically logged in once you've logged in into a different device? There are various ways you can do this, some cooler than others, but some of them involving WebSockets, for example. So you have a WebSocket open, and if you log into any device, because you just click the code on your phone or something, then this app gets the update that, oh, this user is logged in, so it's fine. I think like an easier way to do this would be essentially doing a bit of a poll. When the user is focused again on the document, we can check again if they're logged in or not, or revalidate. And I think that's an example they saw. You check for visibility chains here. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna combo listening to visibility chains, which is an event that happens when you change tabs, for example, with invalidating the user data in SvelteKit. Because usually when you log in, you want to invalidate everything. Right, so let's try that. Because maybe that's like a better UX. So in our login page, maybe it's just in the magic link login, like that's part of the same thing, isn't it? I guess. We can set up a listener, as we saw, to the document object with the special element svelte document. we're actually going to do exactly this. But it's Svelte 5, so no more columns on event handlers. You don't need that. And we don't want to use anything else. And what we want to happen here is if we go back to visible, then we want to invalidate all. I don't think these files to begin with. So just in case we're here, we go to the login page, nothing happens. I guess it should happen here. So I think we actually want document focus. Like that event. Window focus. Because as we saw, like this one doesn't run when I come back here, but maybe that's not the use case. Is that the use case? The use case is that I am on my email client and then I go back in there, which will be a different tab. Does it run if it's a different window altogether? Let me double check this. So I'm looking at my email client now. Like, let's say we're here. Let's see, console log. When I focus in, this runs and validates stuff. Good. If I focus here, this doesn't run. So if I'm in a different window and go back here, this doesn't run, only when I'm on a different tab. So I think I need to revalidate this on focus. This guy is adding it on the window. So we can try that. There's also like this Svelte window helper. Let's see. So now this runs every time I re-click here, which is fine. Not the end of the world, not a visible problem for the user, even if they've filled in something. But let's see if what we're doing here is gonna work. So on the right, I have my email client. I'm gonna send me an email. Sent. I get the email in the other window and I click and I log in. Great. And then I go back here and indeed I get logged in here too. Cool. Great. But I think that's kind of nicer. It does happen, like you'll open your email client somewhere else in a different tab here, and then you'll click and then you'll have another window open, and then you may end up in that login page, which is not great, not the end of the world. And this is a decent enough solution. Hope you liked it. For sure. Cool. So what's the last thing we want to show, just a little bit of testing. Now that we're using a third party and not mailer, we're using recent, we're actually doing an HTTP request as we saw to handle the actual emails getting sent. And this also goes against my quota with recent too. But we've set up MSW mock service worker. So what I have in the docs here, in the logs here, it is saying that we're sending a post request to API recent.com emails, which actually you may want to handle differently. And we can just let this go through, or we could do something else, which we will. So first, let's handle this request. If you remember, we should have an mocks handlers recent directory. And we could have another handler here. It's going to be quite similar to this actually. But the address is going to be this. Just the record. Come on. What does it want here? I know it's nothing, but does it not like empty object? But I'm gonna get trolled and I'll put object here and then it's gonna be like, I don't like this. Ah, no, it's fine. Okay, cool. So from here, we can actually be logging here and saying, what does recent send back? Is it a 200? Probably. If we didn't have the recent token as we did before, this is going to blow up, which is fine. But we can get the raw text from this. It's always there. And console log the email and the text. And we can actually say, just always return 200. What does recent return? does it not say? Response is this. I think it's a 201. It creates like a new resource, but I'm not sure. So let's do the same. Seems like it returns an ID or something. We don't really care about that. We'll over-engineer this later. But the idea is, if I restart the server now and I try to send an email, sign out, login, try to send me an email, it will say check my email, but actually this has been hijacked by mock service worker, and it's console logging both the email and the link that I need to click. Great, so I can just click this and it will open another window and I'll be logged in. So it's all great. It's all looking great. It did actually work, but it opened a different window so you couldn't see it. But hopefully you see the value of this. And what we really want is this link, right? So how do we capture it? Let's ask ChatGPT, because they're better at regex than I am. Let's see. Oh, and also we couldn't get an email from here because I guess this one we're sending a 2, I suppose. Yeah, 2. We're not sending just email, so let's handle that too. So it's a string array somehow. And the first one should be the email. And according to ChatGPT, oh, will this have like tons? Sure. What was it trying to do before? All right, so this should always exist. Yeah, so now with all the stuff we're doing here, if I request this again, I need to restart the server for the handler updates to work. So now we have like this magic link here, and we have the email here. We can console log it, and it's again much easier than opening my email client. It opens it on a different one, which is disappointing, because it does look cool when this actually works. Anyway, so this happens. We may want to keep the logs, maybe not. But this is the way. What do we do, like the crypto thing? This is similar to what we'll be doing to test the auth flow. We'll have Playwright fill in an email here, continue, and then not read the console logs, but have a way to read the last magic link sent, so it will follow it and get logged in. So I'd be excited to have that going, and we can show it today, because we're still a breezy 2 hours 15, not even 3 hours, so we can do it. And I wish I had more coffee, but we can still do it. So step by step, let's see. We have our auth spec here, and we can call it as all the expected login options. Which should work. And then we want a can login with email. Which is fair enough. We go to the login page, we wait for this. We can wait for this just for fun. And we can fill in your email thing. Do we fill in something else? I think we do. So we are thoroughly testing the newsletter sign up. So we'll do a similar thing. Just copy this. I think that's the header. And then label, let's see. So check your email, blah blah. We expect that email to be something. And the label is your email indeed. So does this pass? Should pass. Yes. Actually, no, that's interesting. not clicking it. So click it. So with this, almost, I guess the text has the email in there. Yeah, okay. Sure. So let's make a random email too. I think we can use crypto again. Why not? So that ensures you're not hard coding in stuff as well. And this ensures if you do happen to save this in production, you'll know that it's a playwright problem. What's the player? Is it playwright to dev? Yeah, doesn't really matter. So fill in your email as this random email we just got, and then we also confirm that we have dynamic text showing up. Looks like it's slightly different, but we'll get there. The exclamation mark got us. But now, we're not actually checking that we can click, we got an email in that email address, and we can click the link to log in, right? So how do we arrange that? We can interface with MSW. Can we? Maybe we cannot. That's what I'm thinking, that if we could talk to the handler, to the MSW handler, to tell us, give us the last link you got, then we're good to go. And that's what I've usually been doing, but we don't have like direct exposure to MSW here. So that's kinda unfortunate. So we have this handler, right? And this handler will be console logging some stuff eventually. We could be putting these things in like an array of console logs that keeps getting bigger and bigger. Maybe that's not the craziest thing. As like a fast way to do this. Yeah, I think that kind of makes sense. I think. Create this object. Export it. Can I actually import it in MSW? That's what I want to know. And let's say that No semantic links for this email, put it in there. A record of strings. So my question is, can I import this here? And if I do, if I can, can I visit the link? And if I go there, I should be able to go to the profile page. Let's see, is this crazy enough to work? The answer is maybe. Looks like it's like I've done something weird because it refuses to let me run the tests. If I don't have this line, can I run the tests again? No, so maybe it's something else. That's the problem. Yeah, I think it's flipping out from this import. So we may need to revisit this. Oh, it can't even see the test. So yeah, it's happy now, but the moment I try to import that thing for from MSW, it flips out. You can expose like a little server thingy that spits out the last magic link. Maybe it's fine. So let's see if we had like magic links .ts here, emails to magic links .ts here, which was just a record. Can I import it in this test? Or is it flipping out? So it's fine with that. Great. Now, next question. Is my recent MSW handler able to mutate that import? Maybe. The answer is no. I guess it imports it once and then doesn't save it again. This sec. Well, let me restart this just in case. Maybe it will work. Not really. So yeah, the remaining thing that I guess we'll show next time is like we're almost there. We have MSW actually hijacking the request to resend, and we're able to capture the magic link. We just need a way to send that magic link to... What's that about? We just need a way to send that magic link to the playwright tests, and we'll be doing that in the auth setup too. So because once you've done that, then you've got the credentials that you can use to check that your profile page looks like it's supposed to. All the pages where you need some accounts, an account to actually create your own loot, favorite loot, you can have something like this set things up. You click to get a magic link to log in, playwright clicks the magic link, they're logged in, they have the credentials, and then you can check the authorized functionality of your app. No problem. If you're not using a third party like Recent, you do something similar, but instead of mock service worker which hijacks HTTP requests, you can use something like InBucket, which I also have a link in the description as well, which hijacks the email sends, the SMTP sends, I guess. It hijacks NodeMailer or those things that you can use on the backend to send emails. So within Bucket, you could do, let's check InBucket. I think I do have the link in the description. Just double check that. So in Bucket, you can actually set that up. If you were using NodeMailer or something similar, it would be capturing that email instead of letting it go fly into that inbox, and you'd be able to open it up here, see the email, click the link, have Playwright go there, see the email, click the link, and then they should be logged in. Which also, that's exactly how a user would go through the flow. Even better than with MSW. But because we're using a third party like Recent over HTTP, we need to use something like MSW. The only remaining step is for MSW to tell us that, oh, this is the magic link that you need to follow. And we could do it now. I guess you could have like a server route with SvelteKit as well. That just sends you the latest magic link and only works when it's running locally, when Playwright is running or MSW is running, something like that. Because you wouldn't want that to happen in production. But we'll see. I'll have a think of how we'll be testing this and come back with a vengeance in the next episode. As always, suggest what you'd like to see me cover next. We did talk about this and we did hijack the email sent, but we're just not able to like click the link and have our thing go there. So for now, we're not going to be doing this crazy thing. We'll just be checking that the UI claims that an email has been sent, which is decent enough. If you've manually checked that the emails do work, and if you want the inspiration, you can check the email signup test where we are more thorough with use cases. If it doesn't work, you should see different messages. If you've seen the email sends work once and you see that green, then they should work forever. You'd have like at least 90% confidence they still work, which is better than 0% confidence and just hope if you have 0 tests. But yeah, this would pass because we're just confirming that we validate your email, and then they see that and they get the feedback of the actual email they've put in, which is nice, and using a random email there, so that's sweet. But the remaining step is actually get credentialed with a backend. We'll be doing this next time, unless you communicate in the comments or the Discord that you want to see something else first. We may do the user accounts in regards to user avatars, emails uploads, or like more database stuff. Because after you've logged in, you should be able to favorite some loot. All that. It opens it on the wrong window. Closed this time, so let's see what's gonna happen. Yeah, this one was neat. But let's double check. Let's see if I can get it to open here. All right, we're there. Sweet. Thanks for watching along. Thank you, Nico, especially in the chat and everyone else in the chat. Again, give me your suggestions. Guide me in the directions you want to see, what you want to learn the most. If not, I'll keep going with my plan. We have quite a few things remaining, so I hope you'll find those useful as well. Have a lovely Friday. I hope you have an amazing weekend, and I'll catch you all on Tuesday. It's been a pleasure. Bye-bye.